So you've seen the videos saying that social media is bad for you because it numbs your dopamine system. And you sort of understand it. You feel like your dopamine system might be numb and you're willing to make a change. But you have questions. You're wondering, what the hell does all of this mean? What even is a social media app? Does this include messengers? Does this include YouTube? Does this mean that we have to completely delete these apps? Can we even do that? How do we block YouTube? Can we even delete messengers because I need messengers for school and work? That doesn't sound like a realistic option. What exactly does this mean, and how exactly are we going to do this in practice? Guys, I got your back. That's exactly what we are going to talk about in this video. Now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to talk primarily about what I do personally. Because I don't claim to have all the answers. I don't claim that this is like the one best strategy that is going to work for everyone. Some people might disagree with some of the things that I'm going to say. But I used to be someone that had a really numb dopamine system. I was really down bad. I was really addicted to dopamine. And I've gotten to the point in my life where I've become, in my personal humble opinion, pretty good at managing my dopamine intake on the various aspects of my life when it comes to pornography and entertainment, social media, etc. This is what I do when it comes to the social media aspect of my life. This is how much social media I use and how I use social media. Now, I think that before I do this, the most important thing that I can tell you guys is understand how it works. Because if you understand how it works, if you understand how social media numbs your dopamine system, then you don't need to ask other people if you are allowed or if you aren't allowed to do a certain thing. You can make your own decisions. You can start to make your own judgment calls where you're like, hey, this thing, like TikTok, spoiler, this thing might be particularly bad for me. And hey, this thing might not be so bad for me. So I guess I'm not going to do this thing. And I guess I'm going to allow myself to do this thing for 30 minutes in the evening. You're not dependent on asking other people for what you should or you shouldn't be allowed to do, but you can actually make your own decisions because you actually understand how it works. So this is how it works. Social media numbs your dopamine system. We have a chemical in our brain called dopamine, which is the reward and motivation chemical, which means that this is the stuff that makes us motivated to work towards our goals. This is the stuff that makes us think long term, and this is the stuff that determines how fun or how satisfying things feel to do in life. It drives reward and motivation. It's an evolutionary thing. It's the thing that made us like to eat food or like to have sex, and then our brain was like, hey, this stuff is fun. We want to do this again. Motivation, right? This is the stuff that still drives us to be motivated to work towards our goals. This is the stuff that still makes things fun, etc. Now, this is the problem. If we receive too much dopamine, a very high, unnatural amount of dopamine, more than our brain was designed to handle, which we obviously get in our modern lifestyle, the dopamine receptors in our brain go numb, which means that the dopamine system sort of starts functioning less and less. Which is a particularly big problem considering the fact that it drives reward and motivation. And so we start to lose motivation to work towards our goals, and we start to experience life as less and less fun, which is, it can be devastating, right? It can destroy your whole life. A lot of people have a dopamine system that is so numb that it's really affecting their life. A lot of people notice that playing a video game isn't that fun anymore. They don't really have any motivation to work towards their goals. They can't really make long-term decisions, etc. It's a big problem. And social media, along with a couple of others like video games and porn, are particularly bad. Social media apps, and this sounds like a bit of an exaggerated, horrible conspiracy theory, but this is actually the truth. Social media apps are designed by teams of people that sit down and that ask each other, hey guys, how can we make sure that this app destroys the absolute crap out of their dopamine system so that they completely become addicted, and all they want to do is keep coming back to this app, and they lose the motivation to do anything else. They're incapable of watching a longer video. They don't want to work. They don't want to study anymore. All that they want to do is just go into this app like a mindless zombie and swipe through the videos. Because the more they keep coming to our app, the more money we make. That is literally, well, maybe not literally, maybe they don't literally use these exact same words, but that is how these apps are designed. They purposely give you as much dopamine as possible so that you become as addicted as possible, and so that you become as incapable as possible of doing anything else, so that you keep using the app so that they make as much money as possible. And you can see this in the evolution of the apps. First we had Facebook, which was rather slow, right? I think the companies didn't even think that much about dopamine back then. They had like a concept where it's like, oh yeah, people can share their lives, etc. But then Facebook got outcompeted by Snapchat and Instagram. Why? Most people don't think about why Instagram and Snapchat did so well. There's one reason: dopamine. Instagram and Snapchat gave us more dopamine than Facebook did. It presented us with more videos, more pictures in a faster way, and so it gave us more dopamine. And so that's why people, especially the younger generations, who already had a somewhat numb dopamine system, lost their interest in Facebook, and all their interest went to Instagram and Snapchat. It gave us more dopamine. It's as simple as that. And then TikTok came along, which essentially did the exact same thing when it comes to videos. It presents us with shorter, faster, more interesting. Interesting is a subjective term, but I guess you guys get the point. They are like more trendy, more sexy videos than most all the videos you can find on YouTube. And so it gives us more dopamine. TikTok gives us more dopamine than watching YouTube does, which is why TikTok is currently doing better than YouTube. Well, at least in terms of growth. In terms of like total numbers, I don't know. But in terms of growth, TikTok is the main video platform. And YouTube knows it, because YouTube made a literal exact copy of TikTok. YouTube knows that shorter, flashier videos is the future, because this gives us more dopamine. We can see the social media apps progressing, where they constantly become faster and faster, and they constantly give us more dopamine. The fastness of the platform is the thing that gives us so much dopamine, because every post you see, every video you see, you get a new hit of dopamine. And you can see a video literally every 1 second if you want to. Okay, so now that we know this is what I like to do for me personally. I like to be very aware of how much time I am spending on these platforms, and I like to actually make rules for myself, which I will get to in a minute. And I like to be very aware of how much dopamine these things are giving me. The faster it is, the more flashy, the more different things you do, the more you go from one thing to another, the more dopamine it gives you, the worse it is for you. So for example, spending 30 minutes on TikTok, going from one video to another every 10 seconds, maybe watching like a maximum length of 1 minute if the video is very interesting, doing that for 30 minutes. It is going to be 10 times, if not 100 times worse than watching 30 minutes of YouTube videos where you watch 2 15-minute videos. It is going to be an uncomparable difference. Yes, YouTube can also technically be bad for you, especially if you don't really watch it with purpose, but you're just mindlessly browsing through the videos, and then you get bored after 1 minute, and there's a video in the sidebar, and you click that video, and then 2 minutes later you click the next video, and you sort of just go from one video to another. Yes, it can also be bad. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that bad if you just watch 1 or 2 videos with purpose. The key here is set rules for yourself and stick to them. You can allow yourself to watch 30 minutes of YouTube videos in the evening, but if you go beyond that, or you turn it into this session where as soon as you get bored you go to the next video, that's where it sort of starts to become bad for you. Now, I'm not saying that you should never be allowed to skip to the next video. Sometimes you are watching a video that is particularly bad or particularly uninteresting. I mean, sure, make a judgment call and go to the next video if the video is really bad. But be honest with yourself. Are you really spending the amount of time on YouTube that you wanted to spend? Or are you going beyond that? And are you really watching the videos that you wanted to watch? Or are you just clicking from one video to the other because you are chasing dopamine? That is what you need to be asking yourself. Messengers. I like to use messengers for essential communication and nothing more. So I open up a messenger app when I actually have something to say to someone, or when I'm expecting someone to say something to me that has a purpose. And our purpose can be relative. A purpose can also be asking a friend how they're doing. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a work or a school appointment or something. But I don't open up these apps when I'm not actually expecting something, or when I don't actually have something to say to someone else. Because this is something people do. People open up the apps to chase dopamine. There's no reason you should open up the messenger right now, but your brain's going like, oh, I'm wondering if someone sent me a message. I'm wondering if my friends in that group chat said something funny, or maybe not even funny at all, but just something. I just want to see something. You're doing nothing more than chasing dopamine. This is obviously the behavior that we do not want to do. Notifications, same thing. There is no reason to ever have notifications on. These things are designed to make your dopamine system tingle, and to make you curious and think, oh, I wonder what people said. There is no reason to have them on. If someone actually has something important to say to you, you will be expecting it, or they will give you a phone call or whatever. You don't need notifications. Don't have notifications on. Don't open up the app unless you have a purpose to open up the messenger. Use it for essential communication. Instagram. I do not really use Instagram. Yes, I technically use Instagram because I have an account and I post stuff, and I also sometimes watch like what the other creators are doing to get an impression of what's going on in the niche. Aside from that, no, not really. It's not my thing. Now, I do think that if you really want to use Instagram, it's probably not the end of the world. Even if you want to use it for like entertainment purposes, because it's not all about using things for education, but you can use Instagram for entertainment and like watch celebrities or check what your crush was doing or what your friends ate for dinner last night. But I think that it's very important here to sort of do it in the same way that I just talked about YouTube. Make a planning for yourself and stick to it and do it with a purpose. If you tell yourself, hey, I've had a long, hard work day, been very productive, didn't distract myself during my work or school day, and it's the evening, so I want to spend 20 minutes on Instagram looking up my crush or this celebrity or whatever. It's fine. But actually stick to that rule of doing it for 20 minutes and actually look up the things that you want to look up. Sort of do it with a purpose, even if it's a superficial purpose where you want to look up your crush. Do what you were planning to do and make 100% sure that you don't turn it into this session where you just mindlessly go from post to post or from profile to profile, where you're just chasing dopamine. Do it with a purpose. Stick to your own rules. Very important here as well. When I tell you that it's probably okay if you watch 20 minutes of Instagram in the evening or 30 minutes of YouTube videos, keep in mind that when you do these things individually, it might be fine, but when you do all of these things together, it might not be fine anymore. Doing 20 minutes of Instagram might be fine, but if you spend 20 minutes on Instagram, and then you spend 30 minutes on YouTube, and then you spend 1 or 2 hours on video games, and then you watch some porn before you go to sleep, then all of these things together probably might not be fine anymore. You see, 30 minutes of entertainment is not the end of the world, but 30 minutes of entertainment followed by 30 minutes of entertainment on another platform, followed by 1 hour of entertainment on another platform, etc., etc. That is the reason why your dopamine system is numb. TikTok, no. No, I don't use TikTok. Yes, again, I technically do because I have a page and I post stuff on there. And I also watch other TikTok videos sometimes to sort of see what the other creators are doing and to get some inspiration. Aside from that, no, TikTok is the worst. There is no excuse to use TikTok. When it comes to YouTube and Instagram, at least you can have a reason, right? Even if it's a superficial reason, you can have a reason. I want to look up my crush. I want to educate myself in this topic on YouTube. TikTok is just mindless entertainment. It is just swiping through the videos. And then you might think, yeah, but there is educational videos on TikTok as well. Rob, you have a page on TikTok and you teach people things. Yeah, but no. I don't actually teach people things. All that I'm doing is trying to get people's attention, trying to make people aware of things. And yes, I am reaching people that have not been aware of these things yet, and I'm bringing some things to their awareness, which sort of is helping people's lives. But you learn nothing on TikTok that you cannot learn anywhere else that is less bad for you than TikTok, YouTube, or books, or whatever. You don't learn anything on TikTok that you could have not learned in other places. The question is it really worth using TikTok, destroying your dopamine system to learn some things that you could have also learned in other places? For me, no. And I would not recommend anyone else to use TikTok either. And when I say TikTok, I obviously mean YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels as well, because they are literally exact copies. Now, this does not necessarily mean that you should never watch a YouTube Short. I mean, I sometimes watch YouTube Shorts when I'm on like my computer on the web version of YouTube, and I see a YouTube Short that I think is interesting. I can click on the YouTube Short and I can watch it. I'm not saying that you should never be allowed to watch a short video ever again, but don't actually spend time in the short shelf or on TikTok or on Instagram Reels swiping through the posts. The act of watching one short video isn't that bad for you, but the act of going through the short videos after another, that is bad for you. Another thing that you should know, this is one of the most important things. I never use social media to fill out moments of boredom. This is something that practically everyone does today. Whenever you have nothing to do, you're waiting for the bus, you're going to the toilet, there is a silence in your social conversation. We get our phone and we start watching social media, doing something else that gives us dopamine. This is the worst. Because what you are doing is that you are creating a lifestyle where you are essentially always bombarding your brain with dopamine. You are never giving your brain a rest, and so your brain never gets a chance to recover the sensitivity of its dopamine receptors. Always bombarding your brain with dopamine is exactly why your dopamine system is numb. It's just like type 2 diabetes works, right? You always bombard your body with blood sugar and insulin, you get type 2 diabetes. If you don't know how type 2 diabetes works, this is a horrible analogy, but if you always bombard your brain with dopamine, that's exactly why your dopamine system is numb. You need to give your brain some time to recover as well. So don't use social media or any other dopamine numbing behavior to fill out moments where you have nothing to do. Learn to become comfortable with doing nothing for a minute. Aside from the whole dopamine numbing thing, this is one of the most essential skills you can ever learn in life. It's the basis of self-control. I mean, think about it. How can you expect yourself to bring up discipline to work towards your goals and quit bad habits, etc., if you can't even do nothing for a minute? You can't even control yourself for 1 minute and do nothing without wanting to mindlessly consume and entertain yourself and keep yourself distracted. Learning to do nothing being comfortable with doing nothing by yourself, one of the most essential life meta skills you can ever learn, and one of the most important things that you have to keep in mind when it comes to numbing a dopamine system. And as a last tip, and this one is more of a motivational thing, what really works for me is to remind me of my goals and to ask myself, what am I doing? So whenever I get an urge to watch social media, or whenever I might catch myself already doing it, when I did not plan to do it, when I'm not doing it with a purpose, I ask myself, hey, Rob, what are you doing? What do you want to do right now? I look at myself from an outside perspective and I remind myself of my goals. I think about what I truly want out of life, and then I ask myself, is this thing that I am about to do really the thing that is going to make me happy? Or am I going to feel a lot happier and better if I don't do this thing? It's a very simple question you can ask yourself, but it really works. Because if you just take the 10 seconds it takes to ask yourself this question, it helps you to sort of view yourself from an outside perspective and to not be controlled by your subconscious mind, but to sort of take a little more control over your subconscious mind.